Freakiness is a part of life. Original Baraman along with the two bad, wicked youths of rap. Not a mercy, whoa.
What's the business? Talk paper when I'm riding by. They know it's drizzle, eat the truth off the east side. I know who ain't got my money because they ducking high. I grind for me and mine. I got the green light. I got to get it how I live it. That means front line. I got them zips. I got that soft. I got that hard white. I got.
Let's get it. It's time to go. It's time to begin, guys. It's time to begin. Oh, camera wasn't on. Give me a second. Oh, crap. Gotta put away all this crack cocaine I've got. Oh, hey, guys, what's up? This is Jimmy. Actually, I want to put on my sweatshirt. Give me a second. This is Cream Apologetics. Here to make you all prepare for a little excitement, a little enticement, a little approachement for your body, man. Yeah, that's right. Let us begin. With this stream today, we're going to be debunking some guy called Joe Bart on atheism and philosophy. Ecology, égalité. We're going to deal with this guy today. And then I'm going to let y'all come on in and you can mentally masturbate. But first, we got to deal with the chief mental masturbator of today. We have Mesalched Jimo. Thank you. You as well. $199, Luke. Super chat, do appreciate that. That's pretty base and cringe. Thank you very much. I don't have a bald spot. The hair was just doing whatever it's doing. I did have some good, like, calamar. The last month they had this really good place. I'll tell you all about my food experience later. Gene Bob with an elbow cough. Diddy over Dawa? What? Gene the crackhead back at it again. Cracked. Mentally cracked. Perhaps. We're going to be looking at Joe Bart. Joe Bart, why I don't believe in God after I farted. Let's get this boy on here. I don't want to watch all of it because I don't feel like being copyright struck. I will share the screen, and then we are going to parlez-vous a little como tapel 2 or whatever, and then you guys can come on. I'm not going to let people cronk it up in here for too long. So the only guy who has the power to be on here for an extended period of time and talk would be Two Crooks. He has earned that right. As for the rest of you, you don't get to make this your 15 minutes of fame. Look at that white hair. Look at that. No. Get out. You're going to see me do this on camera. Come on. I guess not. Anyway, it's weird, man. I got a young face, but I have a little bit of that salt and pep. We have Ephraim here says, I never thought I'd see the day that Gene does a stream on Joe Bart. Yep, I'm streaming on Joe Bart. Gene, did you do internships during college? I'm going through it right now. Not any good ones. Georgian king beats Armenia, he says. I don't know, guys. Like, are you both like protectorates of Russia? Anyway, I can't talk. We had that Ottoman experience. I'll keep him small this time because usually when I make the guy big, I get crunked on the, I might get crunked on the, whatever it is, you know, the copyright stuff. Joe Bart-Philosophy, 90,000. Yeah, see, I can tell already. He has so many subs. It means nothing's going to happen here. All right, we're going to get going in a second. Oh, yeah, Marcane, thanks for letting me know. He said, You forgot to say, don't forget to like the stream. I don't know why it doesn't show me the proper emojis. I know you guys are leaving emojis, but this stupid app doesn't show that. Yeah, please remember to like the stream, like the video, comment on the video, participate in the live chat. Do not talk shit in the live chat unless you have something good to say. You want to come on here, you want to debate me, you want to mentally masturbate, all right? You want to enthuse your brain with this gibberish, this Egyptian paganism that you all believe in, then please come on here and we'll talk shop, all right? I will best you boys. You Alexandrians don't understand what you're dealing with anymore. Jeem is now old. I'm almost 30, dude. So, kind of getting there. I want Ilya versus Islam so bad. Sure you do. You guys tend to want men very badly. Let's get into it. We have about 31 viewers live at this point in time. Young Gamer, that comment you just made, I reported you to the secret police of Saudi Arabia. So, whatever that is, it's out of context. You're talking about killing Islam, it's over. You're not going to be able to go to a GCC country anymore. Already sent it to Mohammed bin Salman. You're never getting it. So we're going to now take a look here. We're going to start with Mr. Joe Bart. I'm not going to watch all of it for copyright purposes and because I think, we've done this shit before, guys, haven't we? All right, let's begin.
Before I get into this video, as you can see, you probably clicked on the title. I am not here to diss any specific religion. This is going to be a—
Oh, well, your title didn't say that, so thank you very much for the clickbait. Now we've all clicked your video, but whatever.
Video on why I am not religious myself and why I do not currently believe in a singular or one God.
They always say currently. I don't currently, that way in a year he can backtrack and say, see, that was just at the time. That's while I was being crunked by the crack of Poseidon. But now I'm a changed man. Okay, let's get into it. I don't think it's going to be very good. I don't think it's going to be very good. I don't think it's going to be very good, to be honest. I really don't. I'm not enthused at the moment. I am not pleased with what I'm seeing. I feel like the lighting in here is not that good. You guys cool with the lighting? Because I don't think I'm able to do much else. Let me try really quick to do a virtual background. Maybe if I blur the background, it'll be better. Oh, we lagged out for a second. That is slightly better. So if I'm lagging too bad, somebody let me know. But for right now, it looks good. All right. Joseph says, I watched this last night and was like, someone needs to reply to this guy. And how does this guy have a degree? That is why the video is stupid. Because he has a degree. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. All right, let's continue.
Okay, I respect all religions. It is your own individual belief that you are allowed to have, and I respect your belief, and I think that religion serves a very good purpose in society. However, I am going to be, giving a list of reasons followed by explanations of why I personally have fallen out of faith and also am no longer religious whatsoever. To start off, I wanted to say that I have not been Christian self-identifying since 2021, just about. So it's been, 4-ish years, but it was a
It's not that long ago. I've been an atheist for 3 years. Like, that's not that long.
Slow decline for the last few. I also want to say I was not a very practicing Christian. I was not somebody that went to church all the time.
Okay, so you weren't a Christian then. And which one? I was a Christian 4 years ago, but I didn't practice the religion. Like, that doesn't really count. To say you're a cultural Christian, you were born into it. That's fine. Don't say I was a Christian. I adopted Christianity, but I didn't practice it.
I did, however, go to a Christian high school, and I did go to college, which I graduated last year, for philosophy and religion. The first year I was doing exercise science, but ended up switching because I loved learning about philosophy and theology, which is the study of religion. And it's a topic—
They're the same thing, unfortunately. Philosophy is a religion.
that I find fascinating.
Which you should know if you have a degree in this stuff.
It's why I even have this channel to begin with, is because even if I am not religious, I still find these topics to be very important to me, and I do want to find answers myself, which is why—
I almost think I totally rock the wife beater / sleeveless look a lot better than he's doing now. Is it just me? Do I just got that gene beef that other people don't got? Let me see if there's any comments before we continue. Me. Yeah, is that the opera of Narcissus? Me. Joe Fart, if you think religion has value, please tell me the value of Baal child sacrifice. Well, you're dealing with a mental abortion, so it's kind of close. Two Hooks says, hello. Oh, man, I actually said your real name. I'm so sorry, dude. It's Two Crooks. He says, hello, gang. Anyway, yeah, I think I bested him in the sleeveless shirt wearing competition. We do have a super chat really quick, $4.99. Luke says, here's why I don't believe in anything, proceeds to mentally masturbate. Well done. You're using that in a double entendre.
I love talking about this stuff because I love reasoning about these things and hearing other people's perspectives, which can help shape—
Translation. I like to mentally masturbate. If you don't believe in this stuff, but you love learning about it, you're a mental masturbator. And I'm sorry, but people who claim to be believing Christians who also just love to talk about philosophy all day, you're also mentally masturbating. So really, he never left Christianity, because online Christianity in many places is just masturbating about how smart you are. And that's exactly what he's doing. But now he's paid. He has a paid career. He has a degree from hopefully an accredited school to masturbate about his thoughts. That is exactly what a lot of Christians do. So I don't think you left Christianity. Let's continue.
My own. Now, I went to a Catholic high school from 2016 to 2020, and I did philosophy and theological studies 2021 to 2024. First year I was doing exercise science. But the start of my decline in believing in, religion as a whole started when I was in high school, probably around sophomore year. Every year we had to take theology classes as part of being, in a Christian high school. You had to learn about Christianity, regardless of whether or not you were a Christian. There were people that were Jewish, Muslim, and every, religion on the face of the earth, not really, but a lot of religions.
Face of the earth? He had Sabians in his class?
That weren't Christianity. People kind of stuff. Nothing written at sophomore year. I began to disagree with a lot of the things that the Catholic faith had. A lot of the interpretations they had on specific scriptures. I did not agree with what the priest was trying to tell me on what that specific text said. Now, that didn't really...
Whoa, wait, whoa, hey, but, oh, bada bing, hey, whoa, hey, oh, ho, wee. How do you know what the verse says? Like, how do you know what the verse is about? Like, I don't agree with how the Catholic Church describes this verse. Okay, but what if you're wrong? What if you're both wrong, actually? What if the Catholic Church is wrong on the interpretation, but Joe Fart is also wrong? That's the problem. How can I substantiate your belief? How do I justify your belief? How do you justify that to me? There's no way. You're just a guy on the internet, and you could be wrong. And you need to read commentaries. Like, people think it's just about reading the literal Hebrew, but the literal Hebrew doesn't take into account cultural context as well. So if you don't know the Homer versus Plato civil war that goes on in my brain, which I've talked about on this channel, then you don't understand the Bible. End of story.
Bring me down a rabbit hole until junior year when I took morality and sacraments. And now morality is one of the, most fascinating topics to me in the philosophical or theological world on what is right or wrong. And a lot of the things that we talked about, I did not agree with what the church stood for. And it wasn't even necessarily every single thing that I could nitpick that they would say. It was more so the idea that they broadcasted, and many religions do this, you broadcast your religion as the universal objective morals that humans have to live. And I didn't see morality as that. And this is even what...
Neither do I. That's not what all religions teach. Islam does not teach that there is a universal moral law that everybody follows and everybody can just be good because God has implanted that law in them, or because they're able to attach themselves to the universal law that exists somewhere in the cosmos. The Muslim religion doesn't believe that. So he said all the major religions believe that. The Muslim religion doesn't. The Muslim religion believes there are certain truths that are true to the believer which are not true to somebody else. And to an extent, Christianity believes the same. All right, if you actually read what the Orthodox saints say about people who are God's enemies, we talked about this a million times on this channel, there aren't actually these universal things where you have to act the exact same way to every single person. There is evil that is dealt with in a way that's different than the way you deal with good. And because I'm not a Thomist, I don't believe in absolute divine simplicity. I don't believe in the frozen monad. I don't believe in Plato's forms. So yeah, I don't believe in this universal law stuff that he's talking about. I reject natural law / natural theology, though I accept there are some laws that are natural, like loving your parents is just something ingrained in society. But you can't say that via natural reason alone you can reach the truth of God. I don't believe in Plato's forms, like I said, so I don't get what this guy's saying. Like, the universal laws. How do you have a degree in this stuff? You don't understand that a lot of the religions don't teach that.
What I wrote my senior paper on in college was that I think that morality is individually objective, right? It is true to you, but it is universally subjective. What I believe is going to be drastically different from what you believe. And to say that one is true and the definitive belief set that we all have to live by is not something that I can get behind. Now, that's not me throwing morality to the side. I'm not saying that right and wrong doesn't matter. It really does. It is something that is needed for societies to function.
It's needed, but it's not true. You notice how he leaves that part out? He's saying we need the noble lie. This is Platonism. He's basically saying exactly what Nietzsche contradicted Christianity for. He said Christianity is the Platonism of the masses. And yet Joe Fart here is saying we need Platonism of the masses, but without theism. Joe, how's that going to work? How are you going to get people to believe in moral goodness without theism? I mean, are you just going to do utilitarianism? Like whatever's best for the majority, the 51% is what's good for everybody? What if the 49% don't like that? What about animal rights? I've never once seen a convincing atheist, agnostic, or even full materialistic dialectic person talk about animal cruelty, animal suffering, and actually justify it, other than just throwing it in the face of people who believe in God. So, Joe, you believe in Platonism for the masses. Therefore, you're actually not an atheist.
But morality is what I would say, Friedrich Nietzsche would say, is a necessary illusion. It is something that we need for a society to function, but it is not something that is definitively true on a universal set. Morality.
Okay, so you do agree with Nietzsche, but the thing is, you're not following Nietzsche's actual conclusion, which is to reject all of Greek philosophy. I assume you haven't rejected all of Greek philosophy. I'm glad he at least mentioned Nietzsche. But yeah, so you're telling people we have to believe in a Platonism, and you think religion's good for people, yet you go on a channel of 91,000 subscribers that's gotten 300,000 views, and you're telling 300,000 people why you don't believe in God so that they stop believing in God? How is that going to help the Platonism of the masses? You realize Nietzsche wanted people to believe in a religion. He just didn't like Christianity, but he wanted them to believe in a religion. You're here broadcasting that you don't believe in it, and you're giving your reasoning why. Well, some people are going to watch this and probably be convinced and not believe anymore. So how does this fit into the master plan of doing religion for the masses when you're advertising that you think religion's stupid?
Only applies to humans, and I believe that it was made by humans. It's not something that is going to apply to aliens or any other species. It is only something.
There aren't aliens. And number two, the laws that are prescribed in the Torah and even in the Quran and the Hadith do talk about the rest of cosmos. So you're wrong again. Like, it's not just about humans. There are laws that are made for humans, and then there are laws about animals as well. And animals are included in the account of the fall, which the Orthodox Church believes in, and the communitarian principle of Islam, where you have animals living in their own community, speaking their own language, and in their own way, even though it's not the human way, they worship God that way. A lot of Orthodox saints agree with that. So again, wrong. It's not just about humans.
That we as an individual species care about. And that brings me to more a scientific thing, but the idea of holding humans higher than other species really bothers me. I understand we are smarter and we're more capable of, communicating and achieving progress within the world rather than a deer that just lives in the woods.
He's going to miss the point.
But to say that we, on God's viewpoint, are better and handpicked to be the one animal that is going to go to heaven and be the one that's going to be judged.
Again, not true, dude. As a matter of fact, animals have it better because they can go to the resurrection without being judged. Ooh.
And go through all of these different things is illogical to me. This goes down to whether or not you believe in evolution.
You can't justify logic, number one. Number two, I don't actually. So, I assume the next thing he's going to say is about evolution. After the evolution part, I'm going to give my little speech.
But to say that we, a species that evolved from random mammals that lived in holes during the dinosaur age and slowly became,
maybe you did,
more intelligible, had a larger brain capacity, more neuroconnections, got lucky with fire, were able to eat food quicker, communicate with each other because of our easy tongue and mouth biology or anatomy, where we're able to communicate with each other and then share knowledge through
primates can do that too, though, dude.
Generations. Yes, we get more intelligent and we are better than other species, but that doesn't mean that we are handpicked by God. That means we got fucking lucky, is how I see it. Another thing is,
look how mad this guy gets. This boy's so mad. I literally saw his skin turn pink and he had a vein. This dude's mad. Dude, you're just mad at God. You clearly do believe in God, but you're just mad. Anyway, Joe Fart. The thing is, animals are implied in orthodoxy, in the scripture itself. So even if you're a Protestant, animals are implied there. And like I said, in Islam as well. I agree with you on one aspect, which is that humans pretending that rationality is the image of God. That's wrong. I do agree with him there. I talked about this in the last stream, talked about it in my new book called The Edge of the Void, Essays Against Atheism. The soul isn't the faculty of rationale. It's people who think, the soul is just pure logic. It's not. The Bible doesn't talk that way. The patristics don't talk that way. The soul or spirit is your life essence, okay? So in that way, it's you, but it's a part of you. You're not a ghost trapped inside a flesh automata, so you're not an automaton or anything like that, number one. Number two, a lot of philosophers did invent complete garbage nonsense. Like Avicenna said, the animals actually have 9 senses because that would explain how they do logic. It's all instinct. So they would make stuff up, literally just make stuff up so that animals would be seen as lesser. So I get what Joe's saying, but as usual, these guys come across a problem and then don't try to solve it. You know, I come across these problems, it bugs me for a bit, and then I get the answer and I share it with you guys. These guys don't solve problems. Like, they like to be stumped and then just change their position. So I've said many times, I don't change my positions frequently at all. It takes a long time. I have to make sure everything is correct before I move on to something else, or in this case, everything is incorrect. But like I said, the patristics don't think, oh, men are the image of God because we have logical, rationale souls. That's later stuff. That's Thomism. That's not what the patristics think. The patristics think we're the image of God because of our heart, because we're able to connect with God in that way, and that God subjectively made us the way he wanted us to be. So it's not a universal law. We didn't get born out of Plato's forms or come out of Ammonius Saccus's womb, Buster Brown. All right, we came from God's own subjective thought. So again, just debunked your universal objective claim. The Bible doesn't really teach that. Debunked your stuff on animals because, unlike you, I studied this problem in depth because I care about animals, and a lot of these guys don't. They just want a reason to reject God. They get so angry with this subject. Oh, we're just monkeys. Why can't you believe that?
Is the belief in a soul. I don't think I have anything that transcends beyond death, right? Which is another reason why.
Dude, again, the soul is actually not the justification the Bible gives for life everlasting. How do these guys miss it? I have an MA, I have an MP in philosophy. Watch my channel. And then they don't understand literally anything about philosophy. Okay, you know, Socrates invented the transcendent dualistic soul. He invented the idea, or maybe he got it from the Orphic mystery cults, but he invented the idea that you, as you appear in all this, whatever that is, the way he appears, that is not the real you. The soul inside of you, which transcends logic, is the real you. But the Bible doesn't talk that way, and the patristics don't talk that way, and that's just not what the faith is. The religion is not. You are a soul stuck in a cage. We've talked about this 1,000 times. So how can you have a life in the afterlife if you don't have a soul? One might ask, Jim. Well, great question. That's why Christ talks about the resurrection of the dead. So this heaven stuff, this experience before the resurrection, that's not the end. The end, the eternity, the everlasting life is the resurrection. That's why Jesus says, you know, I am the resurrection, right, and the life. He's the resurrection, not the transcendent soul. He doesn't say I'm the transcendent soul. Wrong again.
If you watch my streams, I like the idea of Buddhism's nirvana. Now, Buddhism does believe that you do reincarnate in different realms of existence, but the
you can't do that without a soul. And Buddhism's nirvana is based on Plotinus's ecstasy. So it's Greek. And actually, Plotinus got it from the Egyptian paganism. So it's actually Egyptian. So it has nothing to do with China. So you can stop LARPing as some East Asian dude. It's over.
The idea of not existing is something that I can really get behind because that's what I think is going to happen. I think that when I die and my lights turn off and my eyes close or my eyes keep open and they don't blink again because I'm dead, I don't think there's anything after that. I don't think there's any part of me that exists.
Yeah, but again, you do realize that people who believe in soul sleep believe the same thing. They just believe that after, let's say, 1,500 years, your body gets resurrected and you get reinfused with life. So again, Joe, what's the problem here? There are a lot of religions who don't believe in the soul, right? So even though I'm not representing that position officially here, I'm just letting him know he's being very lazy with his critique. I like Buddhism, but I'm not going to follow it. I don't like the soul, and there's a lot of sects out there that also don't believe in the soul. I'm not going to follow them either. What's this guy's problem?
Within me that will transcend beyond my physical being because all I think that I am is a physical being. Now, I do exist and I have thoughts and I can contemplate and reason, which is fascinating, and a lot of other animals can't do that. But just because we can doesn't mean that we have something that transcends us beyond death. All matter will be.
Dude, again, like this is how you can tell someone went to Catholic school and then didn't actually study theology. He studied religion, meaning comparative religion and a little philosophy. You do realize that the selling point of Christianity isn't you get to have a soul. Okay, the selling point is you'll be in the resurrection. Like all the churches talk about this, okay? Even if some of them have befuddled, weird matrix, Plotinian metaphysics that I don't believe in. So this idea that like the whole purpose of Christianity is just to die so that you can be a soul, that's ridiculous. Like that is the one thing stopping you from believing in a religion. I have to say, I have to call you out on it. That's just not the way it is.
be transformed. It can't be destroyed, and that's a big reasoning that people use to, you know, say that there is a part of us that will go beyond death, because matter can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. But I think my matter and me will just be transformed into dust. I don't think that any part...
Because the Old Testament says the same thing. So why do you not accept the Old Testament? It says you came from dust, into dust you will return. That's exactly what you just said. I don't know what this guy's problem is.
Of me will be moved to another plane of existence, if that makes sense. Another big reason why I kind of fell out of religion and more Christianity specifically was the idea of heaven and hell. I don't like that hell exists.
I don't like it. It's like toddler theology, or are we doing like, is this toddler theology, or is this like real life? So stupid. Yeah, and Peter Spinney says there's many different forms of Buddhism. It's not all Zen that believes reality is an illusion. Yeah, there's a lot of different types. There's Theravada, Mahayana, Tibetan, and then within Tibetan you have the red and the yellow. I'm simplifying, but the red and the yellow schools of theology. Within Hinduism, you have kind of Orthodox Hinduism, which is more focused on Brahmanism. So it's not really monotheistic, but it's kind of a perennial emanationist religion, kind of like Neoplatonism. Then you have folk Hinduism, which is, you know, believing in toilet bathwater gods and stuff like that. So it's not as simple as what people think. There's a lot out there. Anyway, as toddler theology is just wild. And
I think that it is a means to deter people from doing bad, not necessarily...
Really, because in the Old Testament, the Jews didn't invent that. So there you go. Like, just if you read the Old Testament, the threat that God makes to the Israelites is never, hey, if you do something bad, I'm going to roast you like a kebab over a fire for 10 million years. How come God didn't? Is that an oversight, Joe? How come God didn't say that in the Old Testament? How come, did Moses forget hell? Like, did he forget? Chat, is this real? Did they mess up in the Torah? Obviously not. The Old Testament doesn't teach that, and the New Testament is actually quite vague about it. Again, not denying hell. I'm just saying the nature of hell is not this Dante Inferno Orphic mystery called torture chamber, where if you masturbated when you were 12, you get your skin ripped off and then put back on and then ripped off again for 12 billion years, like Prometheus or whatever. Like we don't believe in that. Like that's not what the scripture says. You have not done comparative study. You don't understand the theology properly. That's not what it says whatsoever. It says there's an unquenchable fire. Okay? It does not say demons are ripping off your kneecaps, number one. Number two, that form of deterrence was not used in the Old Testament. And it wasn't used in the early church either. This really comes about during the medieval to feudal era. And it's just a couple centuries where they go a little overboard with the whole hell beliefs. So, yeah, clearly he went to Catholic high school.
Fear-mongering, but it puts the fear of God in your eyes so that you act correctly. And that has a good result in that people will act correctly, but they do the right thing for the wrong reason.
Why does that matter? I thought you believed in Platonism and the masses, so if they do the right thing for the wrong reason, like who cares? At least society will be better. Don't you agree, Joe?
Goes back to the show The Good Place, if you've ever seen that. There is somebody in that show that ends up going to hell because they did great things in their life, but they did them to make themselves seem better. They did it to help themselves and have other people view them as good. And
that's not the same thing as avoiding hell. Having other people view you as good is also critiqued in the New Testament. Jesus criticizes people who fast outwardly so that everybody can see them, and they brag about how much they pray. That's why he says pray in your own room and fast and anoint yourself and wash your face so you look like you're not miserable. So again, like this stuff's already been addressed 2,000 years ago, buddy boy.
Possibly even make themselves feel good enough to get into heaven. Now, I don't think that the majority of Christians act that way, but there are people that do things out of fear of punishment.
Okay, so if the majority of Christians don't act that way, then your argument's moot, because the majority of Christians don't do that. So it doesn't matter if some small minority is doing it. I don't get this criticism.
And that goes back to the origin of morality too, where people did feel guilty for things they did badly before religion was or Christianity specifically was very big, because it's
based on conscience, but conscience is based on knowledge, and the right knowledge you have not, to quote John Knox. So actually that's a very unreliable way of doing society. Because whatever people feel bad about, we won't do. What if I'm a psychopath? What if I don't feel bad? And forget psychopathy. What about the Aztecs and the Mayans who skinned children alive? I mean, maybe I shouldn't have said that on a stream. I don't want to get flagged, but that stuff happened. And they all weren't sociopaths who had a bad childhood. These were just guys who thought, yeah, this is brutal, but this is morally correct. Okay, so Joe, why didn't their conscience stop them from skinning people alive?
Feared what would happen to you if you did things that didn't follow the universal or majority rules rule sets. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say,
again, that wouldn't apply to most religions that invented savage customs.
Hell and heaven are different from how most people perceive them. Hell is not just an eternal burning. It's more generally a lack of God. You are not with God. You are in a place that God is not, and heaven is the opposite. Conversely, I know...
Actually not what Orthodoxy teaches. Orthodoxy teaches that no matter where you go, God is inescapable, and so God's beautiful fire to someone who loves him will be righteousness, and someone who hates him will be torment, and that's it. It is a spiritual thing. It's also got physical elements to it, so he kind of got those switched around.
Also, people would probably say that to get into heaven and not go to hell, you have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior.
Sorry about the ad. I'm not doing ad block. It always messes up my browser. We're not going to watch that much more.
That I have with that is that I physically cannot do that. And so it annoys me that people will say I will burn in hell or I will go to hell.
I physically cannot do that. I cannot believe in Christ, he says. So it bothers me when people say I will go to hell. I mean, I don't get how that proves that you're right. Saying you don't like something because you have a hard time believing in it, that kind of sucks for you, buddy. But as the Bible says, maybe you have a hardened heart. Who knows? Maybe your heart will soften in the future. But yeah, I mean, God doesn't really, I don't want to say God doesn't care, like God cares, but God's not going to change the rules of reality for you. You have to get over your own hubris, buddy.
Hell because I cannot accept Jesus. The logical, reasonable being that I am, right? I'm not saying that other people aren't, but I'm saying the way my mind processes is that I have to reason that something exists and I can't disprove it within my own mind for me to believe it. And I don't even know what I believe in a lot of ways because
Okay, but you haven't disproven Christ. So I don't know what you're talking about. You've levied some interesting criticisms. I've responded to all of them and debunked them. To a lesser person who is not spend this amount of stupid time understanding these dumb topics, which I must, sympathize with them for. You don't want to spend too much time doing this stuff. But to someone who doesn't understand that stuff and has lesser knowledge is what I meant to say. They might have been tricked by it, but so far you have not disproven Christ. I don't understand.
Opinion that I arrive on, I will immediately try to disprove. I play devil's advocate in every single thing that I ever try to think. And so if I ever...
Me too. That's how I arrived at all my positions, and I didn't turn into an atheist. So which one of us is correct?
Believe something, the next day I might not because I'll find something that makes me not believe in it. And that goes back to the idea of faith where you're supposed to...
Okay, no, dude, that's the wrong way to do it. You saying I believe in something on Wednesday and not on Thursday, you're going to become mentally shattered and schizophrenic. And that's how you harden your heart and you're not able to believe anymore. You say, oh, that's cope, dude, that's just faith. No, it's not about faith. It's about taking your time to understand something before you criticize it. And clearly you didn't understand what you are now criticizing.
The strong belief in God or the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof, but I can't do that. I can't believe in, I wish I could, right? I have a lot of people in my stream and in YouTube comments, blah, 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 whenever they hear that I'm not Christian, fell out of Christianity, or just am not religious in general, oh, you should just believe in it. I don't want to be a fucking dickhead here, but do you realize...
You are, and you look like one.
What you're saying is illogical. Just believe in it. I can't. I physically can't. I am jealous.
Dude's so mad. This dude is so mad. It's funny. I will take pleasure in his anger. This is like dopamine for me. I love this. This is hilarious. Nobody cares, buddy. Like, sorry, I just don't care if you can't believe in it. And you keep using the word rational and logic, and that goes back to Aristotle. I'm not saying he invented logic, but the way in which the West understands rational and logic comes from Aristotle and from Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologia, where he exposits the master class on Aristotle. Now, he fuddles it with weird Neoplatonic metaphysics that I don't believe in, with monad or whatever, but he is the master of Aristotle, at least for his time period. So the way in which Westerners think rational logic works is not actually the way it would work in an unbiased scenario. Chinese people who are not really atheists, but they're agnostics and they don't have any Abrahamic religion, they view rational logic in a different way than you do, because you're coming off of the whiff of Aristotle's musk, which you cannot escape.
Of people that have religious belief, because you can just believe in it, right? I'm not dissing you. I'm not saying that you're dumb or anything.
We don't. That's the thing. Like, we don't. Like, I don't just believe. I've spent a long time studying this, and there were many times, this is now truth bomb time for Gene. There were many times when I kind of not wished there wasn't God, but I sometimes in the past would wish that I was wrong, that I could just go and be an atheist and not care about anything. But it's actually the other way around for me, Mr. Joe. Like, you keep telling me, you keep telling people that religion is all about dumb, blind belief. But I researched all of this, and I cannot in good conscience declare myself an atheist, because it doesn't exist, dude. Every version of atheism is this whole religion, and it's all based on Greek philosophy, which is all based on Egyptian paganism. So you are an Egyptian, and you don't even know it, Buster.
I'm jealous of you that you're able to sit down and believe in something without physical or reasonable proof of it.
I have physical and reasonable proof. So cope and see.
Being real, right? I understand Jesus existed, and they told us in high school he was one of the 3 L's, Lord, Liar, or Lunatic. Regardless, I don't even know if he was any of those, right? To say that he was Lord, Liar, or Lunatic. People may have just...
Would you just read C.S. Lewis and then go to like middle school and share PB&Js? Is this what you got a degree in? Lord, Liar, Lunatic. Like, isn't that a blog post? Like, who cares? Like, that's kind of mediocre argumentation. It's not about Lord, Liar, Lunatic. I said the same thing about Muhammad. That doesn't make anything. I believe that these events really happen because biblical archaeology is resolute. Some channels I'd recommend is Expedition Bible and is Genesis History. If you watch those channels, and I mean really watch them and go through all the content, you will not be able to walk away saying, there is no physical evidence of God. I'd say proof. I said evidence. There's a great deal of evidence. So combining the very strong, not undeniable proof, but very strong evidence of biblical archaeology with the fact that atheism is just metaphysics repackaged into nihilism, then you cannot be an atheist. And the most logical conclusion from that, even without getting into any metaphysics whatsoever, is to follow the only religion, or, I guess Judaism and Islam could try to co-opt those archaeological finds as well, but the only set of religions that actually have physical evidence of these events occurring in life. Like, if you actually look at the Bible, when it says you've seen, good, you have, blessed are you for having faith after seeing me, but more blessed are those who haven't seen me. Everybody takes that and thinks, oh, there's no empirical evidence for the Bible. There's plenty. The miracles Jesus did were all in public. And the miracles that happen in the Old Testament are events that we can actually go and find in the Middle East and have found them. That's why they have very long details, the size of a book, about where and what obscure valley something was buried. That's why a lot of people can't read the Old Testament, because they think it's so boring. It's not supposed to be a storybook. It's literally a recording of history. And when you read it as a recording of history, you can find this stuff in real life. So I'm not convinced, buddy.
Misinterpreted him, right? The Bible has been translated so many times. It was made thousands of years
It really hasn't.
ago. To say what Jesus said is still in existence today, may that be true? I don't know. I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that try to disprove every single thing I say here to prove their own specific belief, but I will always have something to rebut you that makes me, not you, wrong, but it makes me not believe in what you're saying.
But I could use the logic on you and say, I will always have something to rebut you, ergo I'm not an atheist. And I do. I've rebutted everything about atheism, and it's garbage. But yeah, dude, you're just not understanding that the scripture wasn't translated a million times. You have the original Hebrew copy, then it was turned into the Septuagint, then you had the Masoretic, but the Septuagint and Masoretic go into different parts of the world. So it's not like people are using both at the same time. Septuagint mainly stays in the Mediterranean, and then after the schism, it's almost always in Eastern Europe and Greece, Ottoman Empire territories as well. And then with the Masoretics in the West. So that's it. People aren't reading it 25 times translated. It's maybe 3 times. Hebrew to Greek, Greek to Slavonic. That's it. And then Hebrew to Old Latin, or Hebrew to Greek to Old Latin, and then Latin to Germanic. So yeah, there's going to be problems with, how do I interpret the verse? But you can't say the knowledge has all been lost, because the clergy who could read Latin and Greek would in fact know what they're talking about.
That is a big problem for me. It's another reason why I love philosophy, because there are Christian philosophers that try to prove God's existence a priori, right? Without previous knowledge, without previous biases, they try to prove the existence of a God, or of just any God for that matter, without a religious text. And that's what I love the most, right? That's why
That's what I hate the most. Of course, that's what this guy would love the most. He loves Christians who don't believe in the Bible, or at least argue as if they don't believe in it. And they just ponder about logic. But you know where that ends up, right? Because you can use the very same arguments to prove Neoplatonism. Why isn't Ammonius Saccus's God a viable candidate for Thomistic philosophy proving God? That's the problem there. He loves that, because then you can LARP as a perennial monad worshiper, and you don't have to follow any of the laws in the Bible, because you just proved a generic one God.
I love philosophy. I love the subjectivity of it, and I love the reason-based proof. I don't like having...
It's not subjective whatsoever. This dude did not study philosophy. You're telling me Plato and Orphic mystery cults and Ammonius Saccus and Plotinus, those, in addition to Aristotle, this is about evenly weighted here. In addition to Aristotle, those are the most influential men in the history of Western civilization. They're not based on anything to do with empirical logic. Like, Aristotle talks about how much he loves empiricism and how much he says we need to be empirical, but he's still a Platonist, and he believes in the monad, which he cannot substantiate his belief in. So you don't love subjectivity because they all believe in universal morality and objective morality. You don't like it at all because the guys that you're getting it from, philosophers, don't believe in that. Or sorry, they do believe in that.
A conversation with someone where they try to prove the existence of God with the Bible. It's a circular argument. To tell somebody like me that doesn't believe in a religion that you're going to prove your religion with your religious text is illogical, because if I don't believe in your religion, I therefore don't believe in your religious text.
Yeah, but that's why you prove the religious text is describing reality first. So you look at what the Bible says about reality, you match it with what reality is in our reality that we see. If it matches, okay, then the Bible hasn't been disproven. Now, how do we further prove that the Bible is true? Well, the Bible has a bunch of events that it's talking about. Can I substantiate these? Are they unfalsifiable? Do I have to climb the great chain of being to understand them? No. You'll simply open up the Bible. This isn't it. It's a fiction book. Let's open up the Bible. Oh, we're in Numbers, and we're describing something that happened opposite the Red Sea. 12 wells of Jacob. There they are. Let's go see if those are real. And they have found them, and they are real. And the Bible does describe physical reality the way it's represented, contra to Platonism and Neoplatonism. So Neoplatonism and Platonism say that the soul is the rational faculty, and the Bible says, no, it's not. This is the brain and the kidneys and other stuff that's inside your body. The Bible's proven true, because once people get rid of Platonism in Europe, they realize that they have to be an atheist or go back to the actual scripture. Most of them prove or prefer atheism, like this guy.
So how are you going to then tell me that this is real?
No, I'm going to skip ahead. This is boring.
Because I thought that if I didn't, I was a bad person. And obviously everybody's done, wrong things within their life, and there's things that you need to obviously sit and reflect on. And that goes back to another thing of the idea of confession. Now, this doesn't exist in every denomination of Christianity, but in Catholicism it does. The idea of going to a priest, confessing your sins, and then listening to them on what you should do to resolve yourself of those sins.
Experience the magic.
Gosh. We'll watch this a minute or two more, and then I'll open up. The Scream Boat, like, this looks so bad.
As well, because it motivates people to not feel bad about their things, right? There are things that they have done wrong. I believe that when you do something wrong, you should sit and rot in it. You should have to live in that because that makes you a better person, right? For me to be able to go to...
This dude did not study Catholicism. You're going to tell me you studied Catholicism and you think the Augustinian Catholic and Protestant religion does not tell people to feel guilty for their sins? Yeah.
A priest,
I don't know, Chief.
Say I'm sorry, right? Him to give God. You could go into Greek mythology or Hinduism, and there's multiple gods that control and are the reason for definitive things existing, right? And it really makes those beliefs, or not really makes those beliefs, it makes those, I don't want to say people in your head, but the confusion that goes on when you don't understand something as a human consumes you. And having God to turn to explain those things when you don't actually understand the answer makes things feel a lot better, right? The God of the gaps, as they would call it. But
that's the Bible's not the God of the gaps. The Bible actually says many times that there are gaps in the universe, and God will not tell us what's in them. It says the secret things belong to the Lord our God, and that's it. So yeah, I'm done with this guy. Clearly a tool, doesn't understand anything he's talking about. I'm going to open up the lines. You guys can talk, say whatever you want. Dude is wild. Let's get going. I missed a bunch of comments, so I'm going to read some of them, and then you guys are free to come in. I didn't pin it. Let me pin that real quick to the chat. Oh, this was sad, guys. This was pretty sad. This is one of the worst ones. Like, the guys who claim they're intelligent are always the worst ones. Anyone else agree with that? Like, the guys who claim that they're intelligent, they're the stupid ones. And then whenever you have like an idiot who says, "Yeah, I'm an idiot, I don't understand nothing," so okay, they can sometimes make an okay point. But the guys who claim to study theology and stuff, they suck. Like, you guys suck. They suck bad. Kai, how's it going?
Hey, bro. I just catched on later. Well, a couple minutes ago. It seems just the typical empiricist stuff. Like, oh, why bad? What else did he say? Did he give like moral stuff?
Yeah, I mean, he whined and bitched about empiricism, but I proved to him that he's not empirical, and the arguments he's using don't have anything to do with empiricism, and that the Bible is I don't want to say it's a book of science or anything. There's scientific stuff in it, but it's pretty empirical. Like, it says, here's something that happened. Go and check and see if it's real, and you can do that. So I don't understand what his problem is. I think there's a good comment here. Dr. Martinez says, it sounds like he's inventing his own theology based on his interpretation of Christianity. I would agree. I think most atheists get a bad catechism when they're young, or they just don't understand their religion. So his version of Christianity, he just debunked it. So I don't know.
Yeah, most of the time, if you listen to them, they're just responding to like their grandpa or their bad catechized grandpa.
Dude, you're right. You're 100% right.
Like, because I've been around those type of people at my parish, and it's like boys will be boys, the old phrase. And then I think my grandma said this. It was like the common atheist maker. It's God works in mysterious ways, and I'm like, oh no, don't say that, Grandma. You just make Billy Joe an atheist.
He tried to bring up some intelligent people. He's like, oh, I read all this Christian philosophy, but he only likes Christian philosophy that's just fiddling with your brain about stuff that's not that important. Like he just likes metaphysics. So I think he's just a philosopher who's addicted to philosophy, and he lets that override actual real empiricism. He doesn't believe in empiricism.
Yeah, I haven't checked out the biblical archaeology yet. I'd have to check that out because I'm a Phil bro too. I want to get into that.
Yeah.
So
I recommend everybody has a healthy dose of both. It's important to understand like logic and regiment, but you also sometimes have to take a break from that and show stuff that happened in the world too. So it's good to have a healthy balance.
Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah, I had a weird encounter on Amigo. I was trying to evangelize, and like this girl just does the whole like, where is your proof? Where is the proof? And I just do the basic Jesus Socrates respond with a question, and she says, no, you can't do that. You can't. And she just like left. Like I don't know what was that about.
Some people are like that, man. Like they just cannot accept proper argumentation, or they need you to give them the burden of proof, which you can. If they put the burden of proof on you, you actually can. But then they don't like it when it's switched on that. Like I say, give me your proof that atheism is not paganism, and they can't really do that. So it's very hard for them.
Yeah. I kind of struggle with the same. I think one comment said mental bastard, and like I'm trying to avoid that now. I'm like, maybe I'm getting a little too stuck in the abstract hypnotism.
Yeah, like that's the thing I see a lot on the internet. I critique it a lot, and some people get mad, but it is true. Like there's a lot of guys. I mean, I'm a little older now, but a lot of the guys who are younger than me were first getting into this. Like it's good to learn and stuff, but then they make it all about the intellect. It's like there's most of the stuff in the Bible actually doesn't have a lot to do with the intellect. I'm not saying it's stupid, but it has to do more with the heart and spirit, and a more active lived belief rather than just speculating about, like you said, like weird forms in space. I'm gonna let Young Gamer in. You're free to stay in though. Hey, Young Gamer, what's up?
Okay, what's up? I haven't been in for a while, so sorry about that.
That's fine. That's good.
Basically, if you look throughout the entire video, even though he claims to be a philosophy channel, it was almost always a completely emotional response. And you see a lot of these people who talk about logic so much. Almost everything operates off of some emotionality or feeling, and they're trying to use logic to basically justify their emotions rather than use logic to justify their world belief and why that's true.
You're right. This guy was so mad. He like turned pink. He had like the consistency of a hot dog. His vein was in the middle. Just screaming. He's like, "I'm not your dad. Like I'm not your father. Like stop yelling."
Did you see that Young Don had the same? He kind of turned into the same guy as him.
I did a stream on Young Don a month ago. Yeah, same thing. Young Don's even worse though, because he claimed to study this stuff longer, and he did study it longer, but he just hopped and skipped through so many different positions. He turned out to be like a lunatic.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, it's either that or they end up going into some like deep heretical shit. Like, have you seen? Do you know who? What's his name?
I don't know.
What is Gideon? Do you know Gideon?
No.
Pranks, yeah. His pastor is basically just a complete Judaizer, and I was in their Discord yesterday, and he was like saying, "Oh yeah, if you become a Christian, you basically necessarily have to get circumcised as the seal of your faith."
Yeah, it's not like salvifically necessary, but it's also not wrong to do it. Like you can do it, but it's not like if you don't do this, you're going to hell. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's the thing with the old law. It's like saying, oh, Jesus Christ didn't do away with a tittle of the law, therefore we should completely always be doing it, but isn't necessary for salvation.
Like there's very strong elements of it that are highly, the morality of the New Testament is contingent on it, But when it comes to some other stuff, it's not a salvific issue. Let me answer Jim's comment. Jim Atreides says, why is this guy so angry? To me, it sounds that he just doesn't take criticism. He does not want anyone telling him what to do. So he invents his own religion so as to not take any responsibility. Yeah, they invent their own, but then they also copy all this Egyptian stuff, and they're like, oh, this is just the Enlightenment. It's like, it's from Egypt, buddy.
Yeah, I do notice that a lot of these secular people from like apostates, like when I was converting to Catholicism, there's St. John of the Cross. Saved me from the mental, got me some spiritual. So what happens is maybe because I remember I was both free grace, me and my friend, we both believed in free grace. I hop into Catholicism. He turns into some hyper individualist solipsist like manifestation. Like the instantly I jump into some rigid authoritarian thing, he just like something just flipped. And I notice this with a lot of secular people. It's just this hyper individualism, the self, and this is why they like identity politics. Sometimes they can phone identity, intersectionality. So it's just an interesting observation.
It is definitely. I want to let Joseph on here real quick. Joseph, how's it going? What would you like to talk about pertaining to the topic?
Yeah, I'm just I watched the video last night, and I was like, dude, this like I need this guy's degree. Like how does a guy like this get a degree? That's, you know what I mean?
I know. Like it doesn't. Did he study anything? I mean,
like I was trying to watch the video, and it would be more forgivable if he didn't say like he studied this stuff.
Yeah.
Like if he just said I have toddler theology, I'm emotional, this is what I think. There's no critique then.
Did he get a degree in this? Mere.
Mere Christianity. Yeah, maybe he's a theologian.
Well, it's because the universities are just filled. I think I don't know the rates, but just filled with damn McClellans. Just.
Oh yeah. I think you're right about that.
Getting breeded.
Actually, there's a good comment here. Olive Eisner says, at Jim Atreides, for some young adults, college delays adulthood. He seems very immature. I would say for almost all adults, including myself. Yeah. College did not, like college made me grow up a little. Like I was no longer a kid at home, but it did not turn me into an adult. You don't really become an adult until you're like, I don't know, maybe like 27, to be honest with you. Like the age of maturity has gotten a lot older the longer we're on the internet and we have college and everything. So not to agree with Daniel Hakikachu, but he did have a point when he said people who were 18 back in the day, it's like being 30 now. It is a little, stuff has been delayed. I will have to admit that.
James, speaking of animals, I found in your book the when you kind of compare Thomas Aquinas and Francis of Assisi, yep. I thought that was some super interesting, like an interesting comparison between kind of like one school of Catholicism and another school based on like animals and their position in the, your name is Kai, right? I mean, you're above me in my screen, right? Yeah. You're Catholic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion on like the animal topic?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one because I grew up with my grandma. She's in some weird non-Trinitarian group, and she kind of gave like, I noticed that a lot of boomers, they give the old Thomistic, so maybe not all of them, but there's like some boomers, they just give the old Thomistic, like, oh, they don't have this blah blah blah, and then other people like all dogs go to heaven. And then I think I watched Doxastic Ministry. I forgot what his name was, but basically the animal death theodicy in response to Alex O'Connor. And so because Alex O'Connor's like, hey, these deer, the tree fell on the deer, bro, like you got to redeem it. So I'm thinking, should this pain be redeemed in the animal theodicy, or God can just scrape them if he chooses?
Well, for me, I in the book I wrote, and then in the videos I've done, like the recent one I did, I think that while Thomas Aquinas gets some stuff right, and he's certainly not a buffoon or an idiot, like he was a very intelligent guy. I don't follow his theology, but he's a very intelligent guy. He did get the animal stuff wrong. I mentioned that before because They all based it on rationality. It's like, well, it depends who's most logical, and that's how you get a soul. But the Bible and the early patristics didn't really care about how rational you were. That's not how they measured your worth. So I'm not saying that animals have, a soul like Plato would say you have a soul, but they have some kind of a spirit or breath of life, and humans also have that. And if in animals it might be different, and their existence after death is probably going to be different than ours, but it's not like they're just robots. So I would definitely have to, you're aware of my opinion on that. Good question, though. Steve W. says there's many schools in Catholicism. I'm Melkite, Greek Catholic. He's a Palamite. So he's a Palamite Catholic. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, anyway. Good for you.
So what did you guys think of, or Joseph, you got here the most recently. So what did we think of the video that we just watched?
So I watched it yesterday, and I guess my kind of overarching opinion was literally just asking myself how this guy has a degree in philosophy. Like, I know. I'm gonna sound like a real Dyer right here. I'll admit it. I'm kind of a Dyer right. But like watching like a few months of Jay Dyer, I was looking at this guy and I'm like his thinking is just so like none of the stuff he said was following at all. You know what I mean? It was toddler theology. I mean, that was really perfect. It was, I feel like God shouldn't send people to hell. Okay, first of all, his idea of hell is probably wrong. But second of all, even if it wasn't, he's not in the position to judge that. Like, so he's kind of wrong on two fronts. But yeah, I didn't think it was that impressive of like any.
I agree with what you're saying. Like the fact that he touted his name is Joe Bart-Philosophy, and he says he has an MA in philosophy. That's what really annoyed me. Like if he just said, "I'm just a dude who doesn't understand anything. Here's some of my critiques," I could be a little more cordial. But for somebody to claim they're a philosopher, it's like insane to not understand this basic stuff. I missed a comment earlier. Southern Israelite says Old Testament law is necessary for salvation. You're free to come and talk about that. Steve W. says Dr. Emmy, until the Latins understood him more. Oh, replying to Dr. Emmy, until the Latins understood him more. So Steve will say Palamism or Palamitism, however you want to say it, is able to come into the fold of Catholicism. I think modern Catholicism, like I said in my previous stream, I don't know your guys' specific viewpoints, but modern Catholicism is really a lot more cordial to other schools of thought. So it's not the same as the 1300s where it's like the whole religion is just Thomas Aquinas. Like there are a lot of other things that are included. There's the Franciscan, the Dominican, the Scotus. Then you have the Eastern Catholic rites, and then you have the Jesuit theology, which is different than the Scotus theology. So you can be a Catholic and like wildly disagree with somebody else in a lot of these matters.
Yeah, without getting into like, during Lent, I don't want to get into much apologetics, with like other Christians. But I will say, like, it does seem like the ecclesiology of the Catholic Church is more about like submitting to the Pope than it is about like any specific kind of belief. Obviously, I'm not saying anything goes in Catholicism. I'm not gonna try to like strawman it like that, but you do see more acceptance, like you said, of different beliefs within the wider umbrella of what Catholicism is.
I would say that's an older. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like you said, and if you look earlier in church history, like you didn't see the same acceptance.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's totally a horrible thing either, because like people who complain about that are really, really rigid online. Like these guys, I'm a Nick Fuentes fan, or I'm a Wagnerite or something like that. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing for them to branch out, because if they want to be the universal church, you will have to have a couple different debates, a couple different schools of theology. Even in Orthodoxy, there's people who disagree with some stuff, but it's not as wide. The schools aren't as wide as in Catholicism. Let me, Jeem, do you think a Palamite Catholic in any way is self-refuting or no? Well, I think I already answered that by saying that in the last 100 years, Catholic Church has been very open to that. So I don't think it's self-refuting because their own system allows for that now. But if you're going to say I have to be a pre-Vatican I Thomist, then yeah, it would be refuting to that. I got to answer another question. J.A., I really don't want to talk about Assad and the Palestine stuff today. I've discussed this stuff before, and It's honestly a little depressing. I have done streams on it. I will probably do another stream on it. And honestly, I really don't know what to think about a lot of the stuff that happened with Bashar in the Civil War, to be honest. Like, doesn't mean you have to like the new guys that are in charge, but that I'm also not a Bashar fanboy.
Jim, in your book, The Edge of the Void,
Yep.
I forget if it was Father Thomas Hopko or Father John Romanides, but where he talks about, I thought it was super interesting and kind of challenged some of my beliefs, where he talks about empiricism, and he goes into that, like, the Christianity is empiricism, and it's like, because I've been kind of like Kai was saying, kind of like you kind of flirt too much with the philosophy for too long, and you kind of start to ignore the empirical prayer, actual experience with God. Kind of like you were saying. I thought that was really interesting in the book, where it's like, yeah, the Christians don't neglect empiricism. We just don't have the same, we don't view it in the same way as an atheist would.
That's a big problem too. Like, I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a huge problem. Like, these guys running around online, we all used to be like that, saying, hey, empiricism is stupid. Science is stupid. Watch me calculate this cool metaphysical algorithm in my head. It's like, that's interesting, but most normal people, they're going to need a little more. Most normal people in secular countries, they think religious people are all like nuts who believe in totally fake stuff with no proof. So you don't want to be leaning into that. You want to be saying, no, like, we do believe in stuff that happens in real life. So when like Romanides says a theologian is somebody who has experienced God, not somebody who's just sat at his desk, that's really powerful stuff to say. Like, Romanides does get a lot of other stuff kind of wrong, because in the 80s he was a little too accepting of what was considered novel science back then, which has now been a little debunked. But in terms of that stuff, he's right. Like, how can you claim to be a theologian when you haven't had a good experience, you haven't done the work, so to speak? So I think that's a good definition.
Yeah, I think what you mean, I think the verse is that wisdom is created by trial. So yeah, I definitely noticed that, like, I'm trying to get a little abstract, but there's like you can kind of see, like, on the spiritual side of their spiritual side of the atheist, like, you can see their temperament, like, and like how their beliefs influence their character, and how like the culture, the spirituality of the culture influences the person. You can also see like let's say a hyper Thomistic bro or hyper ortho bro, but they got all the nice, strong intellect, but their spirituality is like, so you can kind of see them both interplaying in some personalities.
I agree. Like, yeah, a lot of these people have some kind of mental illness. I was just going to pop up an image of Hegel's fake Trinity, but I was just going to say, like, a lot of these guys do have a spiritual temperament that, they don't realize that studying something is not an unbiased vacuum chamber. You know what I mean? Yeah, there it is. I did put it in the book. That's Hegel's occult Trinity. So that's for the people who say, oh, I'm a communist, we don't believe in metaphysical nonsense. Like, they do believe in metaphysical stuff. But yeah, just to add on to that, like, people think that if you just read something, you're going to automatically come to the proper knowledge. But your temperament, who you are, and your suppositions going into the book reading is going to affect how you interpret what you're reading. It's like these guys.
Okay, Michel Foucault.
Yeah, what do you say?
Okay, Foucault.
Oh. I got a couple comments I'm just going to read real quick. Luke says, there's the foundation of truth, that we have infinite power from that allows us to refute those that want to refute history itself. I don't know what were you saying?
Let me read that again.
I feel like I missed a sentence there or something. Two Crook says, got to my work area, I'll unload my items and try to get on. Yeah, we're all waiting for you, Buster. J.A. says, thanks, that's all I wanted. Yeah, I mean, we'll discuss the Assad stuff later, but he's gone, so I don't feel the need to be going like LARPing as an Assadist. And he made a lot of massive blunders, to be honest with you. A lot of massive blunders. So, like, if you don't like Israel, you don't have to be a Bashar fan. Like, there's problems with Bashar. We have Ephraim here. How's it going, Ephraim? What was that? You hit the
bass boost
or something? What was that?
Oh shoot, my headphone disconnected. My bad. I got a quick question. So, what's a good like resource that I can go to understand when you say terms like Jesuits are doing Neoplatonism, or that's
Yeah, well, it's not as simple. I mean, I know what you're trying to get at, but it's not as simple as like Jesuits equal Neoplatonism. But you'd have to actually read some of what some Jesuits wrote. And so even in the Catholic Church, there's guys like Timothy Gordon who will say the Jesuits are off their rocker and they believe in perennialism, and us traditional Catholics need to be against that. So if you read some of the history of Jesuits from the Counter-Reformation time up until the modern time, you just have to, you don't even have to really buy entire tomes on it. You can just read the opinions of some of the notable Jesuits who are at the upfront of the Counter-Reformation. Some of the things that they said lead into some of the perennial beliefs that liberal Catholics believe in now, but traditional Catholics, they obviously don't want that in their religion. So that's all I would recommend for that topic.
Okay, thank you. And also, could I have you explain one thing? So you've mentioned before how like Baptist eschatology comes from Jesuit mysticism, or if that's too like deep for Lent, that's okay.
That might be a little like general. Like I say that, but it's more like it's an influence on them, and they took the idea and ran with it. We'll put it that way.
Okay, yeah.
Little plug for you, Dean, that you talk about that in your book, in Misunderstood Bible.
Yeah, in the Misunderstood Bible, I mentioned that. So that's my bigger book. And then in my recent like mini journal book, I do talk about how Jesuit liberal plans in South America were a really good blueprint for what would later be communist policy. So again, like the Catholic Church is huge and there's many factions in it. So the hardcore traditional Catholics always hated this stuff. So it's not as simple as just saying the Catholics did something. It's more like the Jesuits did it and the traditional Dominicans or whatever, or the Scotus, hated them for doing that. But I like to expose that part of history. It's quite interesting.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
One theme that I see cropping up that I'm kind of thinking about when I talk to a lot of denominations, and like when you guys talk about schools of thought, it's kind of the subject of universalism and exclusion, or inequity and exclusion, as my interpersonal communications teacher would say. So like we have Catholicism, you have all these schools of thought, and so hey, like you're fine as long as you're in the church. And then the Orthodox, they got
sorry, then we got Megamind. Go ahead.
They got their schools of thought. And then I kind of noticed, I think I watched What is Alt History, and I think some Hermetic bro weirdos. And basically their point is, it's kind of like, okay, I'm trying to use my brain real quick here.
Wait, your brain? This brain? Yeah, all right, go ahead.
It's like, how do we manage subjectivism with the objectivism? Because, the average bro would be like, man, universalism's awesome, man. Just like everything's correct. Everything's correct. Like, wait, no, what's the, like, there's different parts of the like we're getting different parts of the elephant, and it's all gonna come together, man.
And then it doesn't, and it's like an abomination. It's not an elephant.
But yeah,
I see what you're saying.
And so I'm kind of wrestling with this theme, and like within all the schools of thought, like how the Jesuit school of thought may be similar to the Baptist school of thought. And then when I talk to Protestant agnostics, they kind of have their objectivism and the creed, but then their subjectivism of all these, the Anglican, the Lutheran. So that's a fun thing I've been thinking about.
Definitely. That's interesting. Another thing I would just say, be careful of what if altist.
Oh yeah, I know.
He, for some reason, he got some beef with me just because I used a map of his in my video, which is not even live anymore. It was an old VOD. I don't have that VOD up anymore. But he got so pissy about that, and then he had some weird, like, I don't know, peyote trip, and some Odin, like, demon god whispered to him. I don't know. Like, I'm not even making it up. Apparently, he thinks a demon god spoke to him. So just take what he says with a grain of salt. Some of his older videos, when he's just talking politics, it's okay, like history stuff. But like, I don't really listen to his opinions on sociology anymore, because that weird like Thor gave me a vision and a dream stuff just rubbed me the wrong way.
Just on a different note, real quick, Jim, did you ever see the Jordan Peterson versus Matt Dillahunty debate where Jordan Peterson brings up shrooms?
No, I did not see that. How'd it go?
Well, the discussion was pretty bad on both sides because I don't know if you've seen the clip of Matt Dillahunty saying like I have value because monkey brain have value because monkey thought they have value. Have you seen that clip before? So
the monkey, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, but earlier in the debate, Jordan was like, "It's not." I can't do his voice, but he's basically saying it's nothing short of a miracle that people quit smoking, and there's a high rate of people who quit smoking after having a spiritual experience on shrooms. And Matt Dillahunty was like, "What?" Like even I was kind of like on Matt Dillahunty's side for a moment there because I'm like,
I know like Peterson can be a little weird, and if I can try to do his voice, it's like this. It's like
your damn bed.
Clean your room. You have to do the work. Clean your room. Wash your bed. But yeah.
Wash your bed.
Like wash your bed. Like Kermit the Frog. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. I still can't believe that Jordan Peterson was just like an alum at a Canadian college, and then he blew up in this super, super popular guy that I don't know. I think that he got a little overrated at some point.
Yeah, not agree. I still like a lot of this stuff, but I think actually what makes people more mad, speaking of sociology, I think what makes people more mad is like on our side of things is that Jordan Peterson is flying too close to the sun without fully committing. So he's like flirting with Christians all the time, flirting with the Orthodox, even the Catholic a little bit. And it's like, your Bible is really good. You know what I mean? It's like
classical liberalism and Protestant, man.
I have a funny story.
He flirts with us too much without like marrying. You know what I mean? It's like you can only lead someone for so long before they're just like
classical liberalism.
Guys, so you need to hear this. I did go to University of Toronto around the time where Jordan Peterson just got canceled in 2016 because of that presentation he made. So I saw the whole protest against him. In fact, there's a viral video, more than 1 million views by this point, about everyone protesting Jordan Peterson. I'm actually in it, but not in it, if you know what I mean. My back is turned to the camera. I'm just in the background.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah, but it's pretty funny. I actually think Jordan Peterson deep down wishes he never made that video because he seemed to have had a relatively comfortable life as a U of T professor. It seems all the fame really did a number on him. So I think he likes to wish he probably never made that video unless he's okay with the fame ruining his life.
I don't know. Like maybe it ruined his mental state, but then again, I'm sure he's profited monetarily from all this stuff too. So we don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Also, just one thing in regards to all these mental, for the atheists in particular, aren't there just some people who simply say, I just don't think God is real, and then they move on with their life? I feel like a lot of the atheists I met in the Middle East were just like that. They're like, okay, I don't think God is real. I don't have any philosophy or whatever. They just move on with their life. And a lot of this dramatic stuff just happens seemingly from the I went to a Catholic school and I'm an atheist type of Americans.
Yeah, and I would also agree that it's partly that, it's partly a Western overthinking of everything. That's why I prefer the Middle Eastern atheists, because it's actually pretty easy to reason with them. They assume that there's no evidence for anything, so they just kind of don't bother with it. But if you give them a compelling case, they can be open to it. Whereas if you're dealing with a lot of Western atheists, you got to go through, like, it's got to be a 10-hour presentation. I've got to hold your hand for 6 months. It's like psychotherapy. It's just there's too much overthinking of philosophy that's rotted a lot of people's brains.
It is 100% because it's most of the critiques are emotional. Like that the guy with the degree in toddler theology was just whining. Like if you were to count how many times he said I think, I feel, and maybe he's just doing, to give him some grace, maybe he's just doing that to kind of try to be nice, but he said I think and I feel so much that it was like like you were on a couch, you were Jordan Peterson on a couch and you had this guy in your room complaining why he's not a Christian, and you just have to sit there like, okay, all right, good for you.
I agree. Yeah, he was getting red, man. He was getting red. He had a vein in his forehead, like he was just screaming, and then he would cut, and then suddenly he would be calmed down. Like he probably had to rage quit a few times while producing that video. This is very, very weird. Like, is this a video? Who's he? Who are these people trying to influence here? Because he's like, I want people to believe in religion, but then I'm gonna debunk it, but then I won't.
Yeah.
Like, is it
also it was
blog?
Just a kind of a fun critique of something he said. He said, when he's like, my brain doesn't work that way. I have to try to debunk everything. Right? Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah.
But it's like, have you tried to debunk the fact that you think you have to debunk everything? It's kind of like the skepticism argument where it's like skeptics are not skeptical of skepticism, right? It's just everyone bottoms out somewhere, and he bottoms out at.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny.
But no, it's like, what if what if you're wrong, buddy? Like, what if your brain is not operating correctly? I mean, these people never step back to think about that. I do want to let on Orthoholics, because I have to go in a few minutes. But Orthoholics, what's up? What would you like to talk about?
Shalom.
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on? Right?
I'm good. Just discussing the video that we reviewed earlier.
That's nice. Who's this Joe Bart guy? That's my first question.
He has a degree on PhD toddler theology.
He has a degree.
Yeah. He claims that he's an MA in philosophy or something, but I don't know. I don't know, Chief. Like, learning it from a hobo at Subway at 2 a.m. is not the same as going to a college.
I don't know how much of a theological degree or how aware of theology you can be while being I'm imagining he's an atheist or something like that.
He claimed that he was a believer in something in Catholicism, and then he studied philosophy and very basic comparative religion. Because if he studied real theology, he wouldn't be saying any of the stuff that he said.
Yeah, obviously. Well, I think obviously when you're going down the metaphysics route, I think most of people are just going to get lost on that route, and it's just going to become mostly a philosophy than a religion.
We were talking about that. We were just talking about that like 10 minutes ago.
No, brilliant.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more. I haven't done a lot of them recently, but I don't know how many more of these atheist refutations I can do without it becoming redundant. I think this will probably be my last one for a while, unless there's like a hugely popular guy that debates a Christian or something. I can review that. Maybe what I'll do, my next streams, I'll do debate reviews. I think that'll be fun because I can hop between either side depending on what they're talking about. I'll do that. But like all these guys, it just seems like they have not read the Gene playbook. And if they did, they wouldn't be making those videos, hopefully.
That's actually one thing. I haven't watched a ton of your debates, Gene, but one thing I do appreciate is I think you were debating like this pagan guy. It's on your channel. You're debating this pagan guy.
The 3-hour video with Adam Green. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'll say is that from my point of view, I do like going into the kind of the philosophy behind beliefs, but sometimes like kind of you're saying, it's like, you don't always have to do that. You can actually just kind of confront the belief. It takes longer, to be honest, but you can confront the belief granting some things and still disprove it, which is very beneficial for a lot of people because it's not just like, I'm a precept you. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of presuppositional apologetics, but it's not only that. It's let me precept you, but then also provide like evidence in your worldview for my position,
right? Which
is like really devastating. It's way more devastating than just because if someone doesn't understand philosophy, they're gonna be like, okay, they're just gonna beg the question. Philosophy is just a human mind that it's just like a whatever they say.
I remember the reason I went that route is because the same guy, Adam Green, he's a really famous like neo-pagan atheist LARP guy, and he debated someone else. I'm totally forgetting his name now. What's the name of the guy that does the channel Church of the Eternal Logos?
David Patrick Harry.
Yeah, so he debated David Patrick Harry, and they were just talking past each other because Adam couldn't contemplate the precepts though. Like, he's like, I don't want to deal with that. That's stupid. And so the debate was just them kind of, he couldn't understand what David was saying. So I knew that if I tried to do that kind of stuff, it was just not going to be, he wouldn't reciprocate. So I just went the route of, all right, let's take your worldview and let's see what's good or bad about it. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was fun. I'd like to do more debates like that in the future. I'll probably review some more debates, but that's about it for me tonight, guys. Thank you very much for the questions. I'm gonna head off in a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out then. You have a good night, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
And also plug, get this book. It's actually pretty good. So
yes, thank you very much. Two Crooks, stay on here for 1 second.
Sure.
Two Crooks. But thank you everyone else for popping on. All right, Mr. Crook, you are back. So what were you up to today that occupied your valuable time?
Yeah, so as I've made clear, I technically live in Toronto during the weekdays, on the weekends, but my work is up more in the north. So on Sunday nights, I tend to just do a longest commute. It does take a lot of money out of me, but honestly, where I work in Northern Ontario, it's pretty remote. So, well, not completely remote. So in order to like entertain yourself, I usually just go back to the city and all that. For a lot of people here, they kind of seem to make their life and their work the same thing. And I've noticed it's a very waspy kind of thing. I'm one of the few minorities in here, but I've noticed that one thing that separates me from them is that I don't want my work to completely dominate my life. And I think that's coming from the Protestant work ethic, where people are just marrying these lives. They kind of ask why I always go back to the city. And I think there needs to be some sort of divorce between my social life, my entertainment, and my work. Does that make sense to you, Jim?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for me, the philosophy is, here's the thing. Like there was watching the video by Father Moses McPherson, I think. He's got a big channel now. He was showing the different types of men. So there's like 3 main types of men, like commander man, that's like CEO, general type. Very few men are like that, maybe 2%. Then there's kind of the visionary type, who's like obsessed with 1 or 2 ideas, but they're not as steady or as stable. And then there's the stable guy who is really into the work. And so there's not into the work, I mean, but it's like they're comfortable with a routine that's kind of the same. I feel like a lot of men are okay with that, but I also feel like that's why maybe they don't get women. When I say get, I don't mean receive, but understand. They don't understand women because a lot of women want to have a mixed up lifestyle. They want a little adventure. They don't just want to do the same thing every day. So they like the stability, but then that can bother them a little bit. And I think there's a lot of men that just feel like if they just make their whole identity about a repetitive 9 to 5, where it's like, hey, I don't love my job, but I have to do it, and that'll be my whole life. For me personally, I could never get into that. Like, if my job is going to be my whole life, it has to be something I'm crazy passionate about. Otherwise, it'll just be the job, and then the rest of my life will be enjoying life because of the job. So it's one of those other.
Exactly. And because this is like a bit of a remote area, and just to give you guys context, whenever you apply for Canadian government jobs, sometimes they will make you press a check mark saying you're okay with working in a remote area. I did because I couldn't afford to be a beggar in terms of finding a career. Thankfully, my work is only a few hours away from Toronto, but remember, Ontario is a big province, and there are swathes of Ontario that are just almost filled with nothing. So for a lot of people here, they go to work, because we do have some work dormitories here. They go to work from 9 to 4. Then they pretty much just stay on the site. I stay on the site. It's not worth obviously commuting 3 hours every day to go back and forth. But a lot of people do say, oh, you spend so much money on commuting back and forth between work and your home in Toronto. But that's how I keep saying, if I were to see my coworkers every single day, as in spend every single hour with them as well, even after work, you get tired of them. You got to want to miss the work. You got to want to miss the people. And
what do you do on the weekend anyway? Just sit in the dorm?
There are some towns, but bluntly speaking, these are few thousand people, mostly older and white. So if that's what you guys in the chat are into, that's fine. But I am emphasizing that a lot of people in these towns are older. So for a lot of young guys like myself, the only other young guys are in this work area. And therefore, it can get a little aggravating if you don't want to return. And a lot of people, they don't live in Toronto. They commute to Barrie, they commute to let's say, other towns on the Georgian Bay. Some people even go to Kingston in Ontario just so they can maintain that work-life balance. And here's the funny part. So with me, a lot of people have noticed that my decisions to not have my identity subsumed by my work, they keep comparing me to Spaniards, Italians, and Greeks. And I'm thinking, okay, close enough. I guess it's a more Mediterranean thing that people want to have a complete divorce between their work and their social life. And they see work as the obligation to society so that we can have a social life and not, the life within itself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like right now, I'm not in the corporate world anymore. I'm doing sales now. It's like, it's fine. It's nice. But like, I would be insane if that was my whole life or anything. I finished my fiction book. If you guys were curious about that, I'm just looking for a literary agent so I can hit up the big publishers. And, if that became my main source of success, and I'd be fine with that being my life because that's like a passion. But for it not to be that, it would be like, no, the job is the job. It's the obligation, but it's not the whole life. But yeah, I agree with you two crooks. I do have to head off for now, but
sure thing.
Thanks for popping on, man.
All right. Thanks, Jim. See ya.
All right. So to everybody who is watching, some of you might be new. I'm assuming a lot of you aren't new, to be honest. If you are new, please subscribe. I feel like I'm not getting as many subs nowadays that I used to, which is a little sus. If you're wondering what this video was about, it was the last 40 minutes have had nothing to do with anything, but it was a response to Joe Bart, this atheist philosopher guy who claims he has a degree. And, I believe him when he says he has a degree, because degrees in philosophy at this point are a dime a dozen and they don't really teach you much. So I kind of debunked all of his beliefs and why he got to them: emotional arguments, obsessions with metaphysics, and mentally masturbating. He wasn't much different than the average online, constantly Discord netizen that you see always talking about metaphysics. So I don't see a huge difference there. Go back and watch that, and then I'm done debunking one-on-one atheists because this is getting so repetitive and pathetic that I just can't do it anymore. So if I find a cool debate of an atheist versus someone, I'll do that. If I see Christian versus Muslim, Muslim versus Jewish, Hindu, whatever, that could be really cool to review. But I'm not going to do like, XYZ idiot debunked. It's just getting too tiring at this point. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the super chats. Greatly appreciated, especially now that I've left corporate finance and I'm doing more of a sales thing. That's super, super helpful as I'm getting started from the ground up here. And buy my new book, speaking of The Edge of the Void, Essays Against Atheism. It's just a small essay book, so don't expect some big meaty thing. My magnum opus for philosophy and theology is still the Misunderstood Bible, which of course is still there. I did recently make an ebook version. So you guys have been begging for like a year and a half for an ebook. I finally just said whatever, and I did it. So you can buy the ebook one if you like hurting your eyeballs. I prefer the physical book. And then there's the essay book, and I'll be doing my fiction book soon. But that will be not, that's not going to be like a self-publish. All right. See you guys later.
Freakiness is a part of life. Original Baramonga along with the two bad, wicked youths of rap. Not a mercy, whoa.
What's the business? Talk paper when I'm riding by. They know it's drizzle, he the truth off the east side. I know who ain't got my money because they ducking high. I grind for me and mine. I got the green light. I got to get it how I live it. That means front line. I got them zips, I got that soft, I got that.